All right. So this is the agenda for today. I'm just going to go a little bit about Redstack, and then we'll cover what's new in Revit 2019. We'll cover also 2019.1, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. And I'll be joined by Jet Del Reyes, our Revit Applications Engineer, to answer any questions. So this is going to be about Redstack. We are a leading provider of design, technology and services. We've been around for over 20 years. We've got offices across Australia and the Middle East, and we've got a number of products and services. So this is me, Damien. I've been around for 21 years in the industry and skilled in a lot of Autodesk products and 3D printing solutions as well. So these are the 6 areas that we're involved in: professional services, management systems, software, hardware, IT, and automation systems. These are the areas that we provide software, process analysis, 3D scanning, technical documentation, detailing, layouts, VR analysis, plant design. In terms of 3D hardware, we do scanners, handheld, terrestrial scanners. And also printers and UAVs. In terms of IT, we do HP, controllers, Apple, and infrastructure. In terms of management systems, data management systems like Vault, Clarity, Bluebeam. We've got project management review systems like Navisworks, BIM 360, Fusion 360 Team. And we connect business systems as well, and we supply FM systems like Archibus. So in terms of for Revit, and if you're a Revit user, you should look at Clarity 2019. It's an analytical tool, it's an automation tool, and it's an accessibility tool. In terms of VR, Fuser, it opens Revit files, launches into Fuser seamlessly. It has a bi-directional link with Revit. So if you ever want 5D plus VR and a nice visualization tool that has a live link with Revit, have a look at Fuser. And for management systems, if you're not familiar with BIM 360, I suggest you have a look at it. BIM 360 Docs is an amazing system that works with Revit, DWGs and the like. We've got Glue as well, which is more for model coordination. And we've also got BIM 360 Build, which is more for commissioning, issue tracking and getting to the handover stage of things. So in terms of professional services, we do business process reviews, training, mentoring, system deployments, programming, Dynamo, contract services, 3D printing as a service, and 3D scanning as a service as well. In terms of automation systems, we've got Configurator 360, which is a product configurator. Clarity is an automation system, which will do PDFs, DWGs, IFCs. CAD Connector connects CAD systems to ERP systems. Inventor's an excellent automation system. If you're familiar with Revit, you probably no stranger to Dynamo as well. And also Config Link is another automation system as well. We also have a BIM services division. So with BIM services, we do BIM management and training. We also do project management, BIM plus IoT. So if you're getting into the IoT, Internet of Things, come talk to us. Also artificial intelligence and BIM plus FM or facilities management systems, and BIM plus VR, which is a trending, exciting area. All right, so let's get right into what's new in Revit 2019, and then I'll go into 2019.1. All right, someone's not muted. Thank you, Mike. I'll see who that is. All right, hopefully that should have been fixed. All right, so yeah, thank you for joining us on the webinar. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to see and hear about the new features in Autodesk Revit 2019 release. The following themes describe and group Revit features and enhancements across all disciplines. They help increase architectural, engineering, design, and fabrication insight and efficiency. When it comes to strengthen, there's updates that contribute to building a solid foundation for product reliability and efficiency. When we talk about modernize, it's updates that help create a modern and effortless experience. For automate, it's functionality that supports productivity by automating tasks. Connect, that's more about tools that empower teams by connecting workflows for team-based project delivery to support the full project lifecycle. And create, it's functionality that helps users efficiently create information that better captures design intent. And when we talk about inform, it's features that help optimize designs for better results. All right, so these are the new features of Revit 2019 at a glance, and then I'll get right into digging deeper into what's new. So when it comes to modernize, sorry, there's just a bit of lag on the screen. Trying to sort out. MultiMonitor support is one thing that everyone has asked for. So if you're using Revit and you have more than one display attached to your system, Revit now provides full support for use on multiple monitors. You can drag a project view out of the Revit application window into its own window, and then you can move that window to another monitor as needed to support your workflow. You can drag as many views onto other monitors as you like, maximize them to their full screen, tile them or minimize them as needs dictate. You can maximize the use of your valuable screen real estate with multi-monitor support. So the bottom line is you're increasing your working space to help you better focus on your design work. When it comes to levels in 3D views, levels are perhaps the most important Revit datum element as they establish any important vertical location within a project. When working in a 3D view, you can now display and edit levels in orthographic and perspective 3D views. If levels are not displayed in 3D, you can easily turn them on using the annotation tab of the visibility graphics override dialog for the active view. With the 3D view selected, you can enable or disable its annotation, modify its parameters like height and name, and even resize its extents using the grip handles at the edges. What it does is it gains better insights into the important datum heights in your project with 3D display of level elements. So the new file display levels in 3D orthographic views, while upgraded files have levels in 3D views turned off. This all helps you save time and reduces the need for additional working views. With material appearances, you can create higher quality renderings with a collection of physically based appearance assets in Revit 2019 that take advantage of the physically based Autodesk Ray Tracer rendering engine in Revit. These assets provide high quality, realistic visual effects in rendered images and views that use a realistic or ray traced visual style. While not all assets in the provider libraries use the physically based appearance assets, a large collection is provided, including carpets, ceilings, stone and concrete, glass, roofing, wood, and more. Existing materials can be more easily modified to take advantage of the higher quality based appearance assets as desired. Both physically based and older assets can coexist in the same model and rendering. So we're replacing legacy assets with the new assets to improve the quality of views and rendered images. Three-dimensional views in Revit support orthographic and perspective projections. You can work in full screen, uncrop perspective view by deselecting the crop view tool in the view control bar. Switching back and forth between default 3D and perspective has been streamlined. You can easily toggle from one to the other with the projection mode control on the properties palette. You just simply open a 3D view, make any view adjustments using standard navigation tools like zoom, pan, orbit, and then change the projection mode from orthographic to perspective or vice versa. Full navigation is supported in both modes, and you can easily toggle back and forth as required. So this allows you to work easier in your views. There's been scope box improvements. A scope box can be used to control the extent of datum elements and the crop regions of views. When the scope box shape is changed, all views in datum elements assigned to it will change accordingly. When you apply a scope box to the 3D view, the section box of the view will be enabled and automatically match the size and shape of the scope box. In a view where the scope box is displayed, you can modify its shape and the 3D view section box will adjust accordingly. A scope box can be assigned to a view or datum element from the properties palette. Now the list of scope boxes on that list is sorted alphanumerically as well. So there's a consistent behavior across your 2D and also your 3D views. So let's look at the strengthen theme, and to reiterate, updates that contribute to building a solid foundation for product enhancements and stability. So, or in filters. Filters allow you to query your model for information based on one or more user-defined criterion. Filters are structured such that the results yield yes or no answers. In situations where you want to create a more complex query, you can string together more. With Revit 2019, you can now use or conditions in addition to and conditions when creating view filters that identify elements based on parameter values. You can create multiple rules and rule sets and nest rule sets to help get the desired results. This improvement enables you to define complex, sophisticated rules that identify elements based on categories and parameter values. You apply these filters to views to change the visibility or graphic display on the identified elements. So this gives you greater flexibility in designing filters to organize the contents in views more efficiently for you. The next thing we're going to talk about is double fill patterns. You can create more complex fill patterns by layering two fill patterns on top of each other. In both projection and cut situations, you can use a background fill pattern and overlay it with a foreground fill pattern. This opens up possibilities for more complex and robust graphical renditions. Background fill patterns are available for filled regions, visibility graphic display overrides, object level overrides, and for both projection and cut setting of materials. You can communicate design intent more easily with the double fill patterns, and I think this has been a great feature that's in Revit 2019. In terms of the vertical text alignment improvements, you can control Revit text elements with multiple alignment options. When you're placing or editing text, you can choose from left, middle, right, horizontal alignments, and top, center, and bottom vertical alignments. These options are accessed on the Modify tab of the user interface. So this lets you customize documentation with control over the vertical alignment of text. The next is views usability improvements. In addition to other methods of renaming views, schedules, sheets, and groups, you can now use a slow double-click in the project browser. Whereas a fast double-click opens a view, a slow double-click allows you to rename it. This change aligns the Revit experience with standard Microsoft behavior. With Revit 2019, you can reduce the number of clicks needed to rename views by suppressing the dialog requesting confirmation that you would like to rename corresponding level and views. Now, being able to turn off this dialog can streamline your workflow by allowing you to continue to work without pausing to respond. Before you delete a level, the software warns that corresponding views will also be deleted. New in this release, the warning also lists elements related to the selected levels. You can expand the warning to see the full list of affected views and elements, click OK to continue with the decisions, or cancel to cancel the request. This improvement is aimed at helping to prevent team members from inadvertently deleting elements from the model, thus helping teams to avoid costly mistakes. So the bottom line here is that you've got an improved productivity while working with views. The next thing is file version in Open Dialog to help streamline the file open process and minimize undesired file upgrades. The Revit Open Dialog now displays a software release that was last used to save a selected file for file types that are RVT, RFA, and RTE. We all know that, you know, when you're working on multiple projects, you also work on multiple releases depending on who you work with. So files last saved with an older release will be updated. Files saved with a newer release cannot be opened using a previous release of Revit. By checking this information before clicking open, you can minimize the unnecessary delays and inadvertent file upgrades. This helps prevent unnecessary delays when you're opening your projects. Let's get on to Create now and look at the Create theme, which is functionality that helps users efficiently create information that better captures design intent. So the first one we're going to get into is dimensions for curved objects in section views. Dimensions now work on view-specific geometry such as edges and points created by a view cut plane. Enhances the workflows of producing documentation for fabrication and site installation of complex 3D elements. Dimension for curved objects in section views can be used in all disciplines, for example, with infrastructure, bridge components like decks, girders, piers, etc., or complex architecture. The bottom line is that the precise documentation enhances the end-to-end workflow for bridges, as well as supports documentation for complex architectural forms, which are getting more and more complex, especially with things like Dynamo and generative design. We're all pushing the boundaries of design, so we need our documentation to back that up, I suppose, and support that. The next is split railings. So you can use the split tool on railing elements outside of the sketch mode when a railing is split. The resulting elements will now have path sketches independent of each other. Splitting railings is a useful way to adjust automatically generated railings on stairs and is fully supported on multi-story stairs. So you can have more control in the railings generated from your railing path. I think in 2018 they had the multi-story stair creation, so it's good that they keep on adding enhancements to stairs. The next one is steel design. The new edit tools to more. Sorry, let me start that again. You can use the new edit tools to more easily modify structural framing and column elements and apply custom parametric cuts to better accommodate the geometry of elements at a connection. Steel components like plates, bolts, anchors, shear studs, and welds can now be placed in the 3D model to connect structural members together. So by having a more accurately defined design model in Revit also enables a better interoperability with Autodesk Advanced Steel for steel fabrication, where you can gain greater flexibility in modeling simple and complex steel connections in your structural projects. Continuing on with the structural theme, Revit users have access to a comprehensive library of over 125 parametric connections, which helps speed up modeling steel connections with a high level of detail in the Revit environment. In 2018, added to the structural side of things with the acquisition of Advanced Steel, but you couldn't have custom connections, and the library was pretty basic. So there's no more need to install the separate steel connections for Revit add-in like it was with the previous Revit releases, as these connections are available just out of the box in Revit 2019. With a comprehensive set of dedicated tools available under the new steel ribbon, you can model steel connections based on your requirement. These features allow you to create your own steel connections and store them for later reuse to improve your productivity. So you can now improve productivity by creating your own steel connections and storing them later for reuse. The next one is documentation with steel details. You can use a set of dedicated tools to create more accurate, detailed engineering drawings when steel connections are represented more accurately. These structural drawings are easily created, complete with dimensions, tags, and schedules. You can get a better understanding and evaluation of steel components with more accurate schedules automatically generated out of the 3D model. These schedules can include information for steel elements such as beams, columns, and also bolts and plates. So this allows you to deliver documentation which includes details and schedules for components of structural steel connections. The next one, we're moving from structural steel now, and we're going to go into rebar. To improve scheduling and adaptation of rebar in your documentation, the freeform rebar now either matches existing rebar shape families or creates new rebar shape families from its bar geometry. This is done for each bar in the set individually and allows extraction of fabrication data like individual bar segments, lengths, and hooks. The geometry of freeform rebar is defined by the selected references, and if possible, it's matched to a rebar shape family. You can use the workshop instructions parameter to specify how a freeform rebar will be fabricated, and you'll be able to choose between straight and bend. Straight means that the bar will be delivered as a straight bar to the site, and the shape code is of the first straight rebar shape loaded into the project like 00. And if you choose bend, bend means that if it's possible, the bar will be matched to an existing rebar shape or a matching shape that will be created. Rebar numbering and assembly matching, as well as other properties of the structural rebar category, make use of the shape information like shape codes and segment lengths when you're dealing with a freeform bar match with the rebar shape family. The feature's been implemented to help you better communicate design intent, fabrication data in the form of bar bending schedules, and showing individual segment lengths and shape codes when using planar freeform rebar. So the enhanced 3D modelling and communication of fabrication instructions has been enhanced there. There's new content in Revit 2019. So all the 2018 plus content's included. That was originally released in 2018.1 and .2, including ready-to-use office cubicles, furniture, windows, and appliances, and precast and rebar content. The new content and countrified multidiscipline workflow capabilities optimize Revit for use in German-speaking countries as well, if you work with anyone in Deutschland. And that'll allow you to work more efficiently with ready-to-use content. Now we're going to look at the automate theme, which is functionality that supports productivity by automating tasks. And this is going to be more in the structural and concrete side of things. So girder slabs are now part of the precast automation process, following similar configuration rules and workflows as the other existing types of precast element in structural precast extension for Revit. Autodesk acquired a company called IDAT, which had a precast plugin, and I think that technology has now been put in Revit 2019. So you can use the app to perform segmentation into girder slabs and add reinforcement based on predefined rules to automate the process of modelling precast girder slab assemblies. You can use this feature in conjunction with the shop drawings and CAM export features for more seamless coordination from design to fabrication. This is going to enhance and automate design to fabrication processes. The precast for Revit dedicated API allows bespoke configurations for modelling, such as segmentation and reinforcement rules, position of lifters and connections, and also bespoke documentation like custom annotation styles or multiple shop drawings for an assembly with one click, or customised numbering. This is going to empower structural precast support, and it just complements Revit. Moving on to the Connect theme. This is going to cover tools that empower teams by connecting workflows for team-based project delivery to support the full project lifecycle. So in Revit 2019, IFC import and export supports the latest IFC standard. Previously, invalid elements import and export more cleanly, and imported IFC and Rhino elements may be copied. So for all those Rhino users, it's going to enhance interoperability when working with IFC, and for users who like to work with IFC as well. So that really covers the Connect theme. We're going to get into the Inform theme now, which are features that help optimize design for best results. And this will be more on the MEP side of things. So in prior Revit releases, users had to know a lot about how to configure connectors and understand where to input data from the common scenarios where pumps are defined, such as one couldn't just drop in a pump and know where to input information that was associated with the flow factor property of the connector. There were cases where you had to connect elements in a specific order, otherwise the flow wouldn't propagate as expected, and you have to go back and rework it and try to figure out why and what went wrong, and this was quite frustrating. So Revit 2019 has specific functionality for managing pump sets, which provides a consistent way to define pumps, whether they're unitary or connected in parallel. A pump set can now be defined and set up to have 0 or more standby pumps. The flow through respective pump branches then update accordingly, and just changing the standby quantity from 0 to 1 updates the fraction of flow associated pressure drop through the pump branches. Just bear with me, guys. Just got some questions here that I'm trying to see. All right, we'll deal with those Q&A later. Sorry, guys. So you no longer have to deal with flow factor or fiddle with connecting things in a certain order to hopefully get flow to propagate through the pumps. You can set up and analyze pumps in parallel in hydronic pumping networks, easily compute flow from duty and standby pump quantities. So you no longer have to deal with flow factor. You can set up and analyze pumps in parallel, and it's got enhanced support for pumping configurations. Continuing on with piping networks, sorry. I'll go back a slide. Revit 2019 has improvements to primary, secondary hydronic networks, which enable much more complicated piping networks. Revit has supported the headed systems, hydronic bridges, as well as one pipe primary loops. The primary and secondary loops can be connected via T's or taps. There's a separation element, such as a subcategory of pipes, that can be toggled on and off to visually see the separation of the model. The improved pressure drop analysis for complex networks supports separation of hydronic piping systems into primary, secondary, and tertiary loops, and further as needed. Once separated, the calculated flow and pressure loss calculations for each secondary loop will display on the pump for that loop. So you can more easily see the flow and pressure drop of each pump element in the overall network. So that covers what's new in Revit 2019. I'll get into 2019.1. Just before we do that, I'm just going to launch a couple of polls. First one is, do you use Revit? Yes or no? All right, we'll close the poll. Oh, got people still voting. We'll leave it open for a couple more seconds. And it's a resounding yes. 95% said yes. And the next one poll is, what do you use it for? Do you use it for architectural purposes, MEP, structural, construction, or infrastructure? So the polls are coming in. I mean, over 65%, 50s is architecture, and you probably noticed that a lot of the enhancements have been structural or MEP based. So in terms of the voting, of the 82% that have voted, 57% of you are architecture, 8% is MEP, 19% structural, 11 are in construction, and 5% in infrastructure. So that was that. We can share that result. And that was the result for Revit users. All right, we're going to move right along and cover what's new in Revit 2019.1, which was released recently. And these are the features, just waiting for my computer to catch up, in 2019.1. So yet again, we're going on the themes of connect, create, and optimize. So these are the main features that we're going to cover. So when it comes to connect, Autodesk's goal in developing Revit is to improve the process by which you collaborate and exchange information by building better experiences for sharing data across Autodesk tools and helping teams work together. And they strive to help you get things done more quicker. So the way they've done that is Revit Home is a new user experience that modernizes the way you access, store, and share project information. With 2019.1, it's easier for you to open your BIM design models directly from Revit Home. The BIM 360 project list is integrated into the left panel in the Home UI, and you can quickly and easily browse BIM 360 folders to get the model you need. With cloud models front and center, storing models in BIM 360 makes Revit workflows much easier. So you can easily open a Revit file from the screen there and keep going with that. So in terms of the Connect theme, the new site collaboration tools feature, you are able to easily link topography from Civil 3D into Revit using the desktop connector and BIM 360. So desktop connector is a free tool that comes with Revit, and this connector connects to Autodesk Cloud Services. So if you have BIM 360, you can now bring in the topo from Civil 3D, and you can interact with that in Revit with service hosting, tagging, and scheduling. The site collaboration feature connects architects in Revit, engineers in Civil 3D through BIM 360 document management. At this point, the workflow focuses on topography only. Engineers in Civil 3D will be able to publish topography from 3D and then view the resulting data in BIM 360 document management, and finally link it into Revit. In Civil 3D, from the tool space, you just select surfaces and then select the surfaces for export. Right-click on the overall proposal and then select Edit Drawing Settings. Check the settings for drawing unit and coordinate settings. You check also the Transformation tab and review the topography reference point and rotation angles. You go to Geolocation, Publish Surfaces, specify the output file to BIM 360 docs, and then you just choose where you want to save it in your hub and publish it. In BIM 360, you can check the topography in a 3D view to verify the correct data is being exported from Civil 3D. So just to reiterate, the desktop connector is required to publish to Civil 3D services and then syncing the local files in BIM 360. When it comes to importing it into Revit, you go to Insert, Link Topography, and it should show up a pop-up. If the latest version of Desktop Connector is not running, then you will sign into your BIM 360 account if necessary. You can just browse to your project in BIM 360 and find the file there. You would see a prompt to link topography that says the topography data uses invalid units. What do you want to do? You may either link the topography to the Revit model and use the model's project default units for the topography, or cancel it. Civil 3D geolocation will try to place the model appropriately, but it's also possible to acquire coordinates from Revit. It is also possible to spot dimension, add a building pad on the topography link, and create a topography schedule in Revit with name, projected area, and surface area. Also, this workflow supports subregions and hosting Railings too. Subregions are good for changing the surface material in Revit. It's also possible to place elements on the topography, as this will function as a link. Updates must be made in Civil 3D and edited and published again for use in Revit if you want to push the latest back into Revit. The workflow will require strategy for efficient navigation and linking, and we recommend developing your BIM execution plan accordingly, and you can speak to our BIM services team for advice on that. So to make updates to the topography, Civil 3D and Revit workflows, you can make changes in Civil 3D, upload as shown in the process to BIM 360, check the version and 3D view, and in Revit you just reload from it and link topography again. So this vastly enhances the workflow for topography transfer from civil engineers to architects. As we know in Revit, the site tools are pretty average, so if you can bring something in from Civil 3D, that's pretty amazing to work from. Continuing on in the Connect side of things, IFC files can be linked using Desktop Connector and they'll maintain their links, and this feature will open the doors for new IFC collaborative workflows. In terms of Create, this category of Revit features is focused on delivering better tools, capabilities, and experiences central to authoring of project data, generating and using models. So more onto the concrete side of things, freeform rebars can now be used to create rebar sets with planar bars distributed along the faces of a structural element and aligned to a distribution path. Just like the surface distribution type, modeling of the aligned distribution type can now be done by working in 3D views and selecting the structural element faces to which the bars are aligned. Bars in an aligned distribution are created at the intersection of each individual bar plane with the host surface, and all the bars are planar, respect the cover of the host and are aligned to the distribution path. The path is the edge of an element that can host rebar. This can be selected directly when placing the set and represents the intersection of the faces in the path surface 1 and path surface 2 constraints. The bars in the set can be aligned to the path, which is the default option, and can be parallel to the face selected in the align close constraint. So if this option is automatically if the option to automatically close bars is enabled, then closed contour geometry can be obtained for each bar in an aligned distribution set. This option is enabled by default when placing a bar with the stirrup or tie style. So this new type of freeform rebar distribution increases 3D rebar modeling versatility and helps you define the accurate reinforcement for standard and non-standard shapes of concrete elements, which is pretty exciting. I mean, concrete hasn't been around in Revit for a very long time, so to have that for guys in structural is pretty good. In terms of walls, when working in Revit, you will now be able to drag, rotate, and align a model pattern on a painted top surface of a wall, such that you may adjust the pattern tile location on all faces of a wall for highly controlled alignment. So this will now give you greater control over the look of a wall at every visible surface and enhance wall control. You can import double fill patterns from AutoCAD. So when importing a double fill pattern from AutoCAD to Revit, you'll now see the background color on import and also have the ability to explode the AutoCAD hatch in Revit, and a Revit pattern with a background is created as a single object so that there is no need to manage two coincident filled regions. So in AutoCAD, you create a file that contains hatches that have a color background, import this file into Revit and explode it. A fill pattern will be created that is a foreground hatch and a background solid fill. So the Revit workflow, you create fill patterns, materials and overrides in Revit that have a foreground hatch and a background solid fill. You export the views with these fill patterns visible to CAD. You import this DWG file back into Revit and explode it. A fill pattern will be created that has a foreground hatch and a background solid fill for all places the pattern was used. So the management of important fill patterns has been significantly reduced by this new process of complete data transfer and effective data translation. The next theme will be optimize, and optimize means several things in the context of Revit. It's how we can improve your easing working by making the software work better and by improving your interaction with the software. It's also in delivering tools that you can use to analyze and conduct simulations to get the insights you need to make the best design decisions. Revit 2019.1 includes a set of enhancements to perspective views that dramatically improve the modeling process in your 3D views. In behavior consistent with orthographic view, when you're orientating a 3D view or perspective view to an elevation section or floor plan, the view orientates so that the camera position and the section box is activated and cuts the model. When you duplicate a perspective view, all relevant view attributes such as the camera position, zoom, are now transferred to the new view. You can now lock perspective views. Now lock perspective views cannot be rotated or the camera moved. The zoom in region tool moves the camera instead of zooming on an uncropped perspective view. This allows zoom in region to be used as a navigation tool. The reset crop region tool enables crop visibility so you can see the result of your changes. And also the behavior of the keyboard modifier or orbit pan zoom has been refined. You can switch between orbit and pan using the center mouse button and the shift key. Panning and navigation in uncropped perspective views is more responsive and faster as well. Thanks to these new improvements, you can work easier and faster with perspective views. We're going to get into section view and alignment snapping. In 2019.1, you can use the align command to select the line for a section view and use it as a reference for alignment or as the object to align. For example, you can align a section line with an angled wall. In addition, snaps are enabled for section lines, so you can snap while moving a section line or snap to a section line during the placement of another element. These enhancements support precise positioning of section views to accommodate various customer workflows. Let's look at resizable dialogues now. So this has been in response to customer requests submitted via the Revit Ideas page. In Revit 2019.1, the go-to view dialog and the add view to sheet dialog are now resizable. You can drag the corners or edges of these dialogues to resize them to display a long list of views and view names that previously did not fit in the dialog box. So this lets you see the entire view named continuously on the screen and helps you work easier and faster with your dialog boxes. So that was it for what's new in Revit 2019 and 2019.1. We're going to open it up for some Q&A. And as I said, we're going to be joined by our applications engineer, Jet Del Reyes, and we'll be answering your questions. So just give us a moment. Can these presentations use the metric system in the future? Yes, definitely. So Leslie Gibbons, you've asked Australian standards compatibility. I don't think so. It's been a long time for asking, and no, I don't think there is. I can check with Jet to see if he knows of Australian standards compatibility. Any improvements in utilising the iOS platform for drawing, or is this not an area of future development? So, Mitchell, are you talking about to get it on Mac in terms of mobility, or having Revit on a Mac? Mainly iPad. It's all BIM 360, Mitchell. If you get BIM 360 Docs or BIM 360 Design, you can share your models through there. Is that what you're referring to, Mitchell? Do you want to collaborate on the iPad, mark up, measure, do things like that? My old question, when will Revit have the save as to earlier versions? I don't think ever, Colin. They want people on the latest. So if you can save backwards, yeah, I've used a number of CAD packages. especially 3D, there's not too many that save backwards. You know, AutoCAD is probably the only ones that I know of. Look, there might be others, you know, that can just open older ones, but yeah, in terms of Autodesk, apart from AutoCAD, none of them really save back. I thought models could only be viewed and not edited in 360. That is 100% right, Mitchell. You cannot edit any models in BIM 360. It's more of a collaboration and viewer and synchronization tool. Yeah, if you want to edit on iOS, I mean, Bootcamp and Parallels seem to be the only way to go. Look, I know there's Fusion 360, which is available, but that's not even available on an iPad anyway. I don't know any CAD modeler that's available on an iPad. Maybe Onshape is a cloud-based, but it's not for architecture or construction. Yeah, Jack, mate, massive improvements in custom steel connections. I mean, you either got to use Tekla, Advanced Steel, or, you know, Pro Steel, but Revit's really coming along in terms of yeah, custom steel connections and structural steel detailing. AutoCAD architecture transfers. You mean like transferring from AutoCAD architecture, Leslie, into Revit and vice versa? It's IFC and you know, linking a 3D WG seems to be the only thing for that, Leslie. But to intelligently have a link between AutoCAD architecture and Revit, I don't think that's going to happen, to tell you the truth. If you look at what's new in AutoCAD architecture over the last 10 years, it hasn't been a whole lot. In the last couple of years, there's hardly been anything. All the focus is on Revit. Yeah, I would recommend, yeah, just linking in a AutoCAD 3D DWG or a IFC. Yeah, Colin. Yeah, 2019 is amazing. Yeah, get on it if you're not on there already. Have you heard of any improvement in parametric link between Revit and Inventor? Gavin, absolutely nothing. The only way you could do it is through Dynamo right now. So if you go to YouTube and Google Dynamo for Inventor, you're going to see a guy there, Franz. He created a plugin for Dynamo for Revit, for Inventor, and you could literally change something in Revit and it will update in Inventor. So that'll give you a live link. That is the closest you're going to get to a parametric link between Revit and Inventor. The other workflow is through iLogic, so you could have an Excel form. Yet again, Dynamo talks to Excel, Dynamo talks to Revit, iLogic talks to Excel. You change the Excel form and it should change through both, Gavin. We're automation specialists. If you want us to develop something for you, please reach out to me and we can discuss it further. Yeah, it is cumbersome for a large project. Yeah, look, I've heard about AnyCAD for Revit, but in terms of the parametric link, no.